Chapter 3, Mishnah 1. We learned in the previous chapter that when a liquid is touched by a Rishon or Sheni, it becomes Tameh as a Rishon. The following Mishnah deals with items of food that change from liquid to solid and back again to liquid. The Mishnah discusses how such changes affect their Tumah status. Gravy, the broth of stewed beans, and milk are liquids that can turn into solids. Their law is as follows. As long as they are liquid enough to moisten something else, i.e., as long as they have not fully solidified and are still wet enough to make something else wet, they become a rishon when something tameh touches them, because they are considered liquids with respect to the laws of Tumah. If they then solidify to the point that they are no longer able to moisten something else, they become tameh as a sheni. Since the liquids that were tameh as a rishon are no longer here and have been replaced by a new item, a solid food, their previous Tumah has disappeared. Nevertheless, the newly formed solid becomes tameh as a sheni, because the last drop of liquid to turn solid makes the part that is already solid tameh as a sheni. The Mishnah now explains the law where the solid turns back into a liquid. If they then melted and became liquid again, the Tumah status of this liquid depends on how large the solid piece was before it melted. If it was exactly the size of an egg, the melted liquid is tahor. Since the solid food is no longer here and has been replaced by a liquid, the previous Tumah has disappeared. Thus, the newly formed liquid is not automatically tameh, but it can become tameh from the solid food while it melts. But it can become tameh from it only if the solid food is large enough to transmit Tumah. Therefore, if the solid food was only the size of an egg before it began melting, as soon as the first bit of it melts, it is no longer the size of an egg and it cannot transmit Tumah. The melted liquid is thus completely tahor. However, if the solid was larger than the size of an egg before it began melting, the melted liquid is tameh. This is because as soon as the first drop of liquid comes out from the melting solid, it becomes tameh as rishon from touching a solid food that is the size of an egg. That drop will then transmit Tumah to all the rest of the liquid that forms afterward.